My brothers and sisters in Christ, on Saturday we completed our reading of the book of Genesis, and today the readings shift to the book of Exodus. As I remarked on Saturday, that the book of Genesis was one about origins, the situating of the human family in the family of God. And now, as the story of Joseph and his brothers wrapped up in Egypt, there's an immediate change in the wind with the beginning of the book of Exodus. After just a couple of verses of transition, we hear of a passage of time and the coming to power of a Pharaoh who knew not Joseph. Immediately, the situation of prosperity has shifted to one of opposition, of conflict. Pharaoh, who sees a conflict between his own people and those of Israel. He sees a foreign nation, he sees people that are a threat, and therefore the whole discourse of Exodus from the beginning of the story until literally the passing through the Red Sea, the relationship of Egypt and Israel will be one now of conflict, of opposition. And so quickly the story of God's family has turned into one of conflict and opposition. And this illustrates for us the sad reality of sin. This is further highlighted by the fact that even in today's gospel, we hear of Jesus saying that he has not come as a promiser of peace, but his very presence will bring division. This is the tense reality of life in the already but not yet, as people of the promise, but the promise not completed yet. A promise that is in the progress of being fulfilled, but has not been completed yet. And that is that for those under the reign of sin, there is a constant conflict. There is a fighting against the will of God, especially under the dominion, the temptation of the enemy. There is constantly a temptation to self-love, to self-protection, to exerting oneself against the other, to see all as a threat or a potential usurper of one's own power. And of course, this is a worldly way of thinking. The gospel of Jesus is looking to bring about unity, humility, to root all things in God. That all glory is not meant for us anyways. It's God's glory, and that all of us have a joyful share in his house. And yet sin constantly reigns for us to vie for position, to challenge, to backstab, if you will, to do all kinds of things in self-seeking ways, as opposed to God-seeking ways. And so I say this because Jesus speaks to this reality in the gospel, and it's an important one for us to hear while we live the Christian life. That just because we are now Christian does not mean that the world is full of peace. We are agents of Christ's peace, the peace of God that he desires for all, and yet what he desires us to be is authentic. And as long as sin remains, and we know the final enemy to defeat it is death itself, until the final battle is won and completed, there will be the conflict. And the conflict is between the truth and the lie. Therefore, to be a person of the truth means to accept that there will come conflict, there will come tension and clashing between those who want to live the truth and those who want to live the lie. We are not promised peace in this life, but as long as we are rooted in Christ, we are promised peace with God. We are promised the abiding peace of God in us that marks us and brings us joy. But exteriorly, we are not promised peace. In fact, conflict is inevitable, and the more and more we authentically live a Christian life, the more and more we may find conflict. But it's the difference between being an agent of conflict, a pursuer of conflict, versus accepting the conflict that will inevitably come. We are agents of peace. We are called to be rooted in God, to live the truth in charity. And when conflict comes, we entrust it to God. We show the love of God to those who oppose us. We do not fight with the world's weapons, but instead mirror back the love of God. And in the end, God is left to sort out. But as long as we have peace in our relationship with God, we are where we need to be. As we continue to hear the story of Exodus as it unfolds, may we keep this in mind in our own life, that even amongst the storms in which we move about and live, that we may truly be securely rooted and the peace of Jesus Christ. May God bless you all.